YouTube? This is Steve from Average Joe's Fantasy Football, and we've got another great mock draft video for you guys. We are now drafting in the third position of a 12-man league. Again, this is PPR redraft, so make sure you guys are prepared for that. We're going to go into detail of what I believe are going to be some good picks, some good strategies, some good players, whether they be sleepers, early round picks you need to grab and get after, even if you have to maybe move up a few spots. But again, hopefully this helps you guys understand where you're seeing some of these top players going to help you guys with your drafts. If you guys are new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button and that notification bell. And of course, always hit the like button. We greatly appreciate it. So we're going to jump right into this. We're going to go right into the draft. I'm not going to talk too much into that, but with that said, third pick overall. Now, in most of my leagues, I actually like to be towards the end of a 12-man league, but we're going to do the third pick for you guys to make sure you guys are prepared. So as you see, this is a shocker here with Cooper Kupp being number one. Typically, Taylor has been number one, which means usually Christian McCaffrey is number two. Now that Christian McCaffrey is available at number three, you're absolutely going to have to go after him. I know a lot of people have gone after receivers like Justin Jefferson or something like that, maybe Chase, maybe a Kupp at the third pick. And I understand that point of view, especially in PPR, but running back is such a very, very tough position to fill. Receivers, there's a lot of depth. You can get a good receiver later round. So I wouldn't go after necessarily a receiver in the first round unless you're maybe towards the end, like you see Stephon Diggs or something like that. Now you see the turnaround, you see Travis Kelce, you see Josh Allen, which is the first quarterback off the board. Nothing wrong with that. I typically will not draft a quarterback super early because I'd rather get top tier players like a receiver, tight end, running back before I get a quarterback. Now looking here, I'm going to go my double running back strategy like I typically do. I'm going ALVIN KAMARA. He has fallen obviously due to his legal issues that are going on. No one really knows what's going to happen, but as of right now, it looks like he will be playing this full season. So in redraft, he is a great pick, especially in the second round. Now with the swing around, you see another tight end go off the board, another receiver, obviously. Now you're looking at the receivers, you're looking at running backs here. For me, I'm going to stretch it out and go to the Kyle Pitts route. I love the pick of Kyle Pitts in the third round. Kyle Pitts, even with the lack of touchdowns last year, he was still one of the better tight ends. And again, in this offense, it's really him and Drake London. There's not a lot of great weapons for the Atlanta Falcons. So for me, I'm going Kyle Pitts. I love that pick there. You're seeing players, again, starting to go. Tight ends, running backs are starting to fall a little bit later. Gibson, I'm a little surprised being here, just with all the stuff going on in camp, but that's okay. I understand that. So for me, I got to start filling out the rest of my roster. So receivers, I'm going to go DJ Moore. I love DJ Moore a lot. I think he's one of the best receivers into this draft, especially in this round. He is definitely going to be a good receiver for you in a PPR edition, especially with the fact that he's performed really well without great quarterbacks. I'm not saying Baker's a great quarterback, but I believe Baker does add an extra bit of value for him. So I like him here. Now, between the two Bronco wide receivers, I know a lot of people like Judy, but I'm actually going Courtland Sutton. I think he's got the better upside and I think the better rapport with Russell Wilson. So I like Courtland Sutton. So I like both of my receivers, my tight end, my running backs. I feel really good about this starting lineup here. Now we got to start filling up, obviously, depth. We got to start filling up our quarterback at some point. Again, you could get a really good quarterback in the 9th, 10th round without having to really stretch, right? So for me, I'm going to start filling out depth. Being that this is redraft, I actually like Adam Thielen right here because, again, Thielen is a touchdown machine. He does have his issues with his injuries. He tends to not be able to finish a full season, which does worry me a little bit. But I think with that said, I still think he's a good pick in this spot as a good depth piece. Now, I would love to fill in running back, but I don't like where some of these guys are here. I think kind of a stretch here. I could probably get a Ramondre Stevens or a Dameon Pierce later on in the draft, and those are going to be really good value, especially for my bye weeks and flex. So for me, actually, I'm going to go back to receiver. I like Gabriel Davis. Gabe Davis is going to be one of those guys that, if you saw him in the preseason, looks like he was at the end of last season. He's got great rapport with obviously Josh Allen, and that Josh Allen offense is going to be a lot of passing. Stephon Diggs is obviously going to get the number one corner, which means Davis is going to get the slot and second cornerback. So for me, I love that pick right there. Now, 8th pick, 9th pick, 10th pick. You can absolutely go quarterback here. For me, just because of my team, I love Dak Prescott in the 8th round. I think he's one of the best fantasy quarterbacks in the league. His receiver and O-line issues this offseason does worry me a little bit, so I am a little concerned. You could go Matthew Stafford, as you see here, or Aaron Rodgers. Stafford's another really good pick, but I'm going to go with Old Faithful and Dak Prescott. Just bear with me, okay? Now, it's all about depth here. Again, I've got a few more spots to pick. I've got, obviously, running back and receivers to still fill. Right here, I'm actually going to go Ramondre Stevenson. I think he's going to be a good pick for the Patriots just because he's been hyped up heavily. Not to say he's going to fully replace Damian Harris. I think they both kind of get mixed in, but they've been talking about Damian Harris possibly getting traded. So for me, I'll take that risk and I'll get Ramondre Stevenson as a good backup. Now, looking at the rest of this, obviously, you're seeing some good players like Pierce. You see, Tony getting there. Kirk, I like a lot. He's really one of my sleepers. Tight ends, you start seeing some of these really good tight ends filling out. I love Freiermuth. He's one of my favorite tight ends going into this draft. And I don't usually typically draft a second tight end. I usually kind of stream a tight end. And I'm not crazy about what you see here. There are a couple of players I like Evan Ingram. I might pick him up later on in the draft where he falls. I'm going to still fill in the rest of my picks as far as my depth goes. So you've got Boyd, good pick, Pickens, maybe a Michael Gallup, if from injury purposes. You look at running backs, you're looking at James Robinson. Hines is a good one, especially if, hopefully Taylor does not get hurt, but if he does, Hines is another good option. I'm actually going to go with Alexander Mattison as a good depth piece. I hope Dalvin Cook plays the full season. I love Dalvin Cook. I really do hope he plays the full season. So I hope, in my case, Alexander doesn't have to get used, but we'll see how that goes. I'm going to start filling out with some of the rest of my receivers. I like, again, George Pickens looks really good. I do worry with Pickens. I think he's going to end up being the top receiver eventually for the Steelers. I think he'll actually end up replacing Chase Claypool at some point because Deontay Johnson obviously re-signed for a couple more years. But that is a loaded receiver, room, and he's just one of those players that he may not get a lot of action, but I'm okay with taking that risk as far as sitting on my bench because, again, I have Gabe Davis and I have Adam Thielen. Looking at the rest of the roster, obviously you're starting to see kickers go. I stream kickers. I don't go crazy for them. Obviously, you see your top kickers like Tucker, McPherson, Bass, Bucker. Some of those guys are obviously there because those are high-performing offenses, so you want that. But again, I'm not too concerned with that. I'm going to actually end up picking, again, depth. So for me, I'm going to go Rondale Moore. I think with, obviously, DeAndre Hopkins out for 6 weeks, I think he's going to end up playing, in certain situations, a really good performer for me. So I like that pick there. I'm actually going to go Rachaad White. Obviously, Leonard Fournette's the guy for Tampa Bay, but I do think they're going to utilize Rachaad White, especially in passing downs, and he might mix in here and there. So I like Rachaad White as a good backup and possibly a replacement to Leonard Fournette if Fournette doesn't perform really well this season. Obviously, there's a lot of, what ifs with his health, with his conditioning that he came back. I think Fournette will be perfectly fine. There's no worries to not draft him. So I'm going to actually go Deshaun Watson. I know he's out for 11 games, and that's okay. I don't mind picking him because I think when he does come back, there's a couple games he might end up doing pretty well. This is just a real low risk play for me. I know, again, I mentioned obviously streaming quarterbacks, and this is just kind of showing you where he's falling because of his redraft status. He's missing 75% of your season, if not 80%. So he's not worth a whole lot. But for me, being that I have Dak, I don't mind it too much. Now I'm going to start looking at, again, tight end. Again, I normally don't pick anybody here, but I'm actually going to go Evan Ingram. I like him as a good backup tight end, and maybe situationally, maybe matchup-wise, he might end up doing really well. He's one of my tight ends that I believe is a really good sleeper this season because I like that offense. He's going to fill that Dallas Goedert role for the Jacksonville Jaguars where obviously, I think if you saw the preseason, he was targeted pretty heavily when it comes to Trevor Lawrence passing in the ball. So I like that pick. I actually think he's a really good sleeper. Now you start looking at some defensive and, kickers. I like Blankenship a lot. I think that offense is going to score. It's a little early for me, but I normally like at least a good kicker from a good offense. So I like Blankenship. I've got one more pick here, and I'm going to go defense. I like the Pittsburgh Steelers a little bit over the New England Patriots. I think that will be a good team. I like that overall depth on that team. They do have some secondary issues, but I think they'll end up figuring it out. It's still like Fitzpatrick there. Obviously, you got Bush, Highsmith. They've got some really good weapons on that defensive side. And Mr. Irrelevant at the end of the day, as far as picking up somebody. You can't go wrong with picking up another receiver or another running back. You know, looking at these guys, there's not a whole lot here I'm going to go after. But receiver wise, you can get some good players. You've got obviously Van Jefferson, who's really good. I'm actually going to go Robbie Anderson, who's the clear number 2 for the Carolina Panthers. So I like that pick a lot there. So as you see, and you saw that offense, I love my starting lineup. Depth can be always a hit or miss. This is where I'd say waivers are absolutely key. A good veteran fantasy player is always going to make sure they're on top of the news and on top of obviously draft, whether it be your trades, whether it be waivers. Those things are going to help separate you during the season. But again, third pick, that's actually pretty good. I like having the fact that I have Christian McCaffrey and Alvin Kamara as my starting running backs. I like the receiver depth. I like the quarterback play. And again, tight end wise, I think having Kyle Pitts as a good tight end, there's nothing wrong with that. So hopefully this video kind of helped you kind of guideline and kind of see where some of these players are falling. Obviously, I'm going to be doing a mock draft for every spot in a 12-man league. So hopefully you guys check out those videos as well. Hopefully you're in more than one league. Sometimes it's a little overwhelming, but check out all these videos here. If you guys have not already, check out our ranking videos and some sleeper players that I think are going to be really good for your redraft season. If you're in Dynasty, check out those playlists as well. Again, if you guys are new to the channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell is on. And of course, hit the like button is greatly appreciated. All right, and make sure you check out the other videos, and I'll check you out next time.